A painting that could never dry might carry a deep grudge. They say that deep within a forest lies a wooden house that has been abandoned for a very long time. The owner of that house was a painter named Rainer, a recluse who was once well known in the art scene of the capital. A few years ago, he suddenly left everything behind and moved here. A place devoid of people, cold and isolated, with no neighbors, only trees surrounding him. Each day passed like an unfinished draft, quiet, monotonous, and full of shadows. Lately, he had often dreamt of a woman standing in the forest, with long hair hanging down and her face obscured.
Let me live.
These recurring dreams began to rob him of sleep. One day, he sat down before his easel and began to paint that dream. Each brushstroke felt guided by someone else. He could no longer control his hand. Rainer painted non-stop for 3 days, unable to stop. The figure of a woman gradually appeared, exactly as she had in his dream. But when the painting was finished, the paint wouldn't dry. Even after leaving it in the sun for hours and trying a hairdryer, the paint remained moist. Strangest of all, the smell of paint didn't fade. Instead, it grew stronger by the day, like something was rotting inside. At night, he began to hear steady breathing right beside his ear while he slept. He also often found long strands of hair on his pillow, despite living alone. Each morning, the woman's face in the painting would change slightly. Her skin tone warmed, her eyes sparkled, teary and lifelike. Whenever he looked away, the corners of her mouth would curl up into a sinister smile. It peaked one night when Rainer woke up to the sensation of hair brushing across his face. In the thick darkness, he saw long hair trailing behind a figure leaving his room. Panicked, he chased after the figure into the living room, where the painting was kept. And he froze. The woman in the painting was staring directly at him, smiling.
Let me live.
In a frenzy, Rainer pulled the painting from the easel and dragged it out into the garden. He emptied an entire can of gasoline over it and set it ablaze. The flames roared violently, but the woman's face did not burn. Her smile only grew wider. And then, from within the fire, the woman slowly stepped out, moving toward Rainer. Terrified, he collapsed onto the ground, trembling and crawling backward.
Please, spare me.
The woman suddenly grew furious, lunged forward, and gripped his neck, lifting him off the ground. In truth, Rainer knew exactly who this woman was. Everything was his fault. He remembered clearly that night when he and his wife had a terrible argument. At the time, his wife was 3 months pregnant. But in a moment of rage, he had accidentally pushed her down the stairs, causing a miscarriage. She later fell into deep depression and eventually took her own life. Since then, Rainer had been haunted by the death of his wife and their unborn child. And yet, he could never escape the nightmares that tormented him every single day. In the end, he would have to pay the price for what he had done to his wife and child. The next morning, a hiker discovered the cold, lifeless body of a man outside a wooden house. Next to it was a pile of ashes and footprints made of paint walking from it toward Rainer.
Every time I turn off the lights to go to sleep, a strange noise starts, right in my ceiling. I'm Olivia. I just moved into this quiet house, a place that suits an introvert like me. Everything seems normal, but inside I still feel uneasy, like someone is waiting. The bedroom is small, simple but cozy, where I hope to find peace. But the first night I heard a strange noise. I thought it was just an old house, so there would be noises like that every now and then. But then every night there was a noise. One night, the footsteps stopped right above my head. I started sleeping with the light on. It felt like someone was watching. I set my phone to record all night. In the morning, I saw a blank frame covered. Sometimes I saw my reflection in the mirror, a beat slower. I tried knocking on the ceiling, but got no echo. I've had enough. Tonight, I must see what lives above me. Each step up the stairs is like stepping into a whisper. The wooden steps groan under my hands. The air smells musty. The attic is dark, dusty, as if long forgotten. In the dark corner, a block stood still, covered in white cloth. I took a deep breath and approached. The light was shaking, as if it was afraid to see the truth.
You're finally here.
The cloth fell. A mirror appeared, but it did not reflect. Inside was my face, but its eyes were empty and lifeless. I tilted my head, and it stood still, just watching me like prey. I stepped back. It smiled a smile that did not belong to a living person. Then it spoke in my own voice. A long, cool voice that echoed from the ground. It whispered intimate memories, hiding in the closet, drawing on the ceiling in a fever. Things only I knew were no longer secrets, but it moved forward, very slowly.
You're just a copy. I'm the original.
I screamed, but there was no sound. In the mirror, it was wearing the shirt I was going to wear. Its eyes were triumphant. I woke up. The ceiling was low. The door was locked from the outside. From the floor came my voice, living my life. Perhaps the most terrible thing in love is not being abandoned, but when he wants to keep you forever. I'm Bella, graphic designer, live alone, few friends, lots of deadlines, bored with relationships. Until I met Jay. Jay was my online friend. He was sweet, funny, and patient. We talked every night, but when he started asking strange questions, I started to feel scared. I immediately blocked him, deleted social media, turned off location. But I couldn't escape the feeling of being followed. That night, I took a shower to clear my mind. When I looked up, the words on the mirror, "You're in," had been written for a long time, making me extremely scared. But when I looked again, the words had disappeared. Before I could scream, a gloved hand covered my mouth with a cloth soaked in anesthetic. I passed out. When I woke up, I found myself tied to a chair. A strange, strong smell rushed into my nose, making me want to vomit. I was shocked when I saw Jay. He was the one who kidnapped me. He held a bottle of opaque liquid and said that he would keep my skin for decades. He held a bottle of opaque liquid and said that he would keep my skin for decades. My eyes fell on 3 glass cases containing mummified girls in the corner of the room. Surely I would be the next work if I didn't escape from here. I was almost desperate, but the ropes weren't tight. I tried to move my wrists. I held my breath and tried to loosen the ropes. When he turned his back, I took the opportunity to attack. I didn't dare look back. I ran. Just wanted to escape from the nightmare. The door swung open. I was stunned. The house was right on the main road. What a confident pervert. I burst into tears, screaming for help. Someone came running. The police arrived. They broke down the basement door. But Jay was gone. In the middle of the room was a transparent glass chamber. Inside was a 3D model of me. I left the city, lived anonymously, cut off all contact. But from that day on, every time the doorbell rang, my heart stopped beating. Have you ever eaten a brain? What if it was a human brain? The story I'm about to tell will haunt you. That night, Lisa and her husband Mark stopped by a barbecue restaurant for a late-night meal. The owner, a thin, gaunt-looking man, handed them the menu. Suddenly, Mark felt unwell and wanted to use the restroom. Just as Mark reached the restroom door, he accidentally bumped into the owner, who was just stepping out. The collision caused a bag to slip from the owner's hand and fall to the floor. Out of the bag rolled a woman's severed head. Her skull had been hollowed out. Before he could react, the owner pulled out a knife and stabbed Mark in the chest, causing him to collapse. Meanwhile, Lisa began to worry when Mark hadn't returned. She made her way toward the restaurant, but as she passed the kitchen door, she noticed a long trail of blood on the floor. Cautiously, she pushed the door open and was immediately met with a horrifying sight. Mark lay lifeless on the floor, his head smashed open, exposing his brain. Even more terrifying, the restaurant owner was digging into Mark's brain and devouring it like a wild animal. A few minutes later, the police were called, but the restaurant owner had already fled. Inside the refrigerator, they found various dismembered human body parts. Every day, she walked the streets, handing out flyers in hopes of finding the killer. But what Lisa didn't know was that the man had been watching her from a distance the whole time. One evening, Lisa walked wearily along a deserted road leading home. Suddenly, she saw a thin figure ahead. She was horrified to recognize him. It was the man she had been searching for. He charged toward her, wielding a bloody axe. Lisa tried to run, but the man quickly caught up and struck her in the back with the axe. At that moment, the police rushed in from a distance and restrained him. It turned out they had been secretly following Lisa, anticipating that the killer might return to harm her. According to the investigation, the man's name was Joe. He had previously served 5 years in prison for theft. After being released, no one would hire him. So he decided to open a small restaurant. However, his business struggled, and there were always few customers. Under immense pressure, Joke stayed up late frequently, which led to severe migraines. One day, he heard an old woman mention the phrase, "You are what you eat." "You are what you eat" meant he needed to eat human brains to heal. So Joke began hiring chefs with high salaries to lure young men. When the man least expected it, Joke smashed his head with an axe and ate his brain. Convinced that eating human brains was secure, Joke continued. In the end, Joke received the highest sentence, the death penalty.